Hey guys and gals, if you want a little backdrop on what inspired this video, check this video out after watching this video. Now, let's get right to it. What's going on here, boys and girls in sporting land? This is JPC. I am the outlaw of college football. And I'd like to ask you guys and gals to like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel, because subscriptions are most important. They keep me motivated and they bring in more of those common Joes and Sallys in the know to put us in the know. So, there you go. Now, moving on. The Oklahoma Sooners going through some rough times right now, in their opinion. Probably. Little disdain, a little dismay, disappointment, anger, downright pissed off, ready to kick somebody's ass, namely Lincoln Riley. But I just want to say this, and I'm not saying this half-heartedly. I'm not an Oklahoma fan, so I have no dog in this fight. So you can't accuse me of being biased or being scorned or any of that, because I'm not an Oklahoma fan. All I'm saying is, I think that this might have been a blessing in disguise. Let me tell you a little story about the Alabama Crimson Tide. This is a good example. Alabama went through some rough times right after Gene Stallings left, after we won the national championship in 1992. He ended up retiring, I think, around 96, 97. Brought in Mike DuBose, who won a SEC title, but had a lot of off-the-field issues and moral turpitude kind of things that got him in trouble. And then he ended up starting losing ball games, so that made it even easier for them to fire his ass. And then they brought in Dennis Franchione, who done decent, had him a 10-win season, but Dennis Franchione was a very dishonest individual, and he ends up leaving Alabama in the midst of the probation that we were hammered with unmercifully, and basically told the players to hold the rope. And then after he told them that, he left them with the rope. Then we had Mike Price come in. Only coached the spring game and got in trouble because he decided to go down to a strip bar in Pensacola and basically run up a bill with the university at the hotels and basically get himself outed and embarrassed the university. Once again, moral turpitude, and his ass was fired. Then we had Mike Shula, and we went through all the crap with Mike Shula and him being up and down and whatnot, and him not being able to beat Auburn or LSU. And so Mike was let go as well. So we understand where you're coming from when you feel blindsided, or if you feel like things just keep going wrong. But this is just a minor setback. Y'all haven't had to go through all that. Now, y'all did, granted, have to go through some rough times right after Barry Switzer left, when you had Gary Gibbs, Jeff Blake, and Howard Schnellenberger before you got Bob Stoops. But our histories are similar in that, with the 90s that Oklahoma went through and the early 2000s that Alabama went through. The histories are very similar, and they're both crimson in color, crimson cream, crimson white. So I'm telling you all this because I just want you to know that traditional powerhouses like this with great fan bases and great alumni and boosters and support always rises back to the top. You know, the old saying goes, cream rises back to the top. Well, the crimson and cream of Oklahoma will rise back to the top with or without Lincoln Riley. And if they go out and hire the guy that they've been talking about, Brent Venables, I think they can get back to the history that I remember as a kid. What I remember as a kid is Barry Switzer. And that guy would put the fear in you as an opponent. I'm telling you, people may not admit it. Nebraska Cornhuskers, people like that may not admit it. But when I was a kid, growing up as a teenager, you're like, man, I want to play Oklahoma. Because Barry had it going on. Barry, that guy right there, you ask him a question, you better be prepared for a real answer, because he's going to give you a real answer, and it's going to be so blunt that it's probably going to make you lose your noodle a little bit, because Barry had it going on at Oklahoma. I think that Oklahoma needs to get back to that way of thinking, that mindset. I'm not saying that they could pull out the wishbone offense or anything like that. I'm saying that mindset, that fear that they inflicted in people, they can do that again. They've got a history of great coaches, great traditions. Bud Wilkinson had the longest winning streak in the history of college football that still stands today. I think it's 47 games in a row. Right? Then you had Barry Switzer. And we already talked about Barry. Then, after that, you went through your dark period, and then you stumbled upon Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops comes in and wins national championship his second season, and then doesn't win one again. He's called him Big Game Bob. Never really understood that, but I do know that Bob Stoops had Oklahoma competing and in the race for a national championship every year, at least, up until the last week of November, usually. But Bob's situation got stale for him and Oklahoma, and he ended up stepping aside. Now, Lincoln Riley comes in, and to me, Lincoln Riley never seemed fully invested in Oklahoma. I used to tell my Oklahoma friends that, and they used to get just freaking blazing mad at me. They think I was trolling them or making fun of them, but I really wasn't. When Bob Stoops comes in, even though Bob Stoops only won that one national championship, and I give him hell for being a one-hit wonder, Bob Stoops has the passion in his eyes and the genuine look of a man of his word, a man that you could probably trust. I mean, nobody's perfect. Bob's probably done a few bad things in his life, but Lincoln never had that look about him. Bob comes in as interim coach, and he's sitting up at the podium. You can look at the man in his eyes and tell that he has been indoctrinated and has had the Holy Sooner ghost come unto him. Bob knows what it's all about, just like Barry Switzer did, just like Bud Wilkinson did, just like Chuck Fairbanks did. He wasn't one of the big B's, but Chuck Fairbanks was a decent coach. But what I think they can do here with Brent Venables is have their fourth great B. Brent Venables has done an amazing job at Clemson, even this year. Even this year, when they've lost 3 ball games, he's done an amazing job. And you're like, well, how can you say that? Well, I promise you, if you look at their schedule, their offense isn't that great this year. And the only way that Clemson has stayed in any of these games, for the most part, except for the cupcakes, is because of Brent Venables' defense. They've come to play every week. Clemson's offense, not so much. I honestly think without Brent Venables at the helm of that defense, that Clemson likely would have lost 5 games this year. Okay? Comes out to Oklahoma. He's actually coached at Oklahoma before. He knows the lay of the land a little bit. He knows the passion. He knows what he's getting into, and he knows, like I said about Bob, like I said about Barry and Bud, he knows what it's all about. He knows the it factor that is Oklahoma football. Oklahoma football can be back in the same breath as the Alabama and Ohio States of the world. I think that Oklahoma can start winning national championships, but Lincoln Riley never took defense seriously. I understand that nowadays you got to have a high-powered offense. I know all that. I'm not saying to have a shutdown defense. I just want a defense that's going to average, shutting people down maybe to 21 to 24 points a game. Alex Grinch was getting them a little bit better, but he would have spasms and spastic games where teams would score 40 and 50 points on him. So I just don't think that Lincoln ever took defense seriously enough to win a national championship. All he wanted to do was win the easy games and win the Big 12 title. And then he's like, well, they really can't fire me for winning a conference championship, right? But I think Oklahoma needs to get back to the way they were under Barry Switzer. Because back then, Iowa State, Kansas, all them teams in the Big Eight, man, they didn't even fathom the idea of even playing Oklahoma close for more than 2 quarters. It's not going to be an issue anymore because Oklahoma now is coming to the SEC. And that's another reason I think that Riley took off to California, because it's an easier route to go through the Pac-12 as opposed to going through the SEC. Now, he'll deny the hell out of it, but I think that was the reason. I just don't think this guy, I just don't think he's built for that kind of beatdown and that abrasiveness every week, week in and week out in the SEC. And I think it's a blessing in disguise. I think you guys are going to be all right. I think y'all going to be a lot better off if you bring in a Brent Venables or somebody else, because you bring in someone like that and they got the mindset of, hey, we're going to do this right across the board. And that's all I got to say about that. You guys and gals, leave it in the comment sections to what you think. If you think that this was a blessing in disguise for Oklahoma, or do you think that Lincoln Riley leaving Oklahoma is going to make them go down the drain? If you think that, leave it in the comment section. And like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams.